What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing you Ravens content every single day. If you want to say that daily Ravens content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell as well if you want to get notified every single time I upload a brand new video. In this video today, I'm talking about Brandon Stephens. Give me your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on Brandon Stephens, the remarks on John Harbaugh, talking about him focusing on safety for this season, and all things Ravens related. So, said it already, but John Harbaugh, it's the second day of rookie practices. He was asked about Brandon Stephens, and he said, hey, we're going to start off working him out at safety. Now, obviously, he's also going to play some corner. There was nothing from John Harbaugh that said he was only going to be a safety. He's brought up that his versatility said he can play all five positions, all five being strong, free, left cornerback, right cornerback, and slot, or nickel, as they call it on defense. I don't know why I said slot. But that right there, having him focus on safety, I think is great news for the Baltimore Ravens. And people may be thinking, man, another position change for Brandon Stephens. He started out as a running back. He transitions to secondary, comes in as a corner. Brandon Stephens played safety in college. That's what he did at SMU. And I think that him going back to that spot, I think that's a really good thing for the Ravens because I felt like every time he was playing cornerback, he looked like he was a safety trying to play corner. I don't think he has the skills. Now, obviously, he could develop them, but I don't think he has the current skill set to dominate as an outside cornerback. I felt like, he was just kind of waiting for the balls. He was more reactionary. And, when the ball was in the air, he wasn't amazing, but he typically would grab players. He got a lot of penalties against him, and he was kind of poor in jump ball situations, things that you want your, big outside cornerbacks to, kind of be good at. That's why Marlon Humphrey is so great is that, he doesn't grab, and cause a lot of penalties. And when the ball's in the air, he's good at, making sure the receivers don't come down with it. What Brandon Stephens has been really good at throughout his career is attacking the ball. He's been very good at, situationally, preparing and being in the right spot to make certain tackles and going after players. And, when he's not on that man, and the ball goes to somebody else, he's going to follow that ball and he's going to try and get that tackle. He's always looking to make a play. He's always chasing. He's always working. Again, I like Brandon Stephens. This is not me trying to disrespect him. I'm just going over the pros and cons. But if you think about, the pros that I brought up combined with the cons, that sounds like a safety. That sounds like somebody playing over the top and helping people in certain situations. That's where I've always felt like he would be best suited as a bigger safety that will attack the ball and try and stop the run. And when somebody's coming in the middle, he's going to try and tackle them. Because when you look at the Ravens outside cornerbacks, I have felt like, and I've said this throughout, the entire draft process, especially after the draft and during the draft when we were going after these slower cornerbacks. And again, we just signed Rock Ya-Sin, he's not a burner. He's not got crazy speed. And so it looks like the Ravens are trying to go into this two over to the top safety kind of defense. And I think that's exactly where Brandon Stephens can fit in very well, which would allow, if that happens, it would allow him and Kyle Hamilton and as well as obviously Marcus Williams to rotate in and out who's playing close to the line of scrimmage. I obviously love Kyle Hamilton close to the line of scrimmage, but I also like him over the top. Marcus Williams, I think, is better over the top, but he can also play close to the line of scrimmage. He can drop into that nickel spot and cover wide receivers every once in a while, and he has done that for the Ravens. He covered Jamar Chase very well from the nickel spot. So if we're doing that two safety over the top, Brandon Stephens being that guy that, like John Harbaugh said, he can play all five. Having him being able to rotate in and out, but be a focus at the safety position is why the Ravens didn't end up drafting a safety. And instead, they drafted Trenton Simpson to go out there and be that third linebacker. So when they don't have three safeties out there, they still have someone with burners that can go out there and go sideline to sideline, cover tight ends, potentially cover slot, because he also has played cornerback. He's played slot. He's played outside cornerback. Can do it all, 15 yards and in lining up. This is a great move for the Ravens defense, in my opinion. I don't want anybody to think that I'm not saying that because I don't think Brandon Stephens was a great corner, but I felt like he was a good secondary player. And him making this transition, again, it's not that much of a transition because this is what he did in college. He flashed the traits for the Ravens to draft him in the third round. It was his athleticism. It was his willingness to attack the ball. It was his willingness to go after and, make that extra effort. Not a lot of players, especially at corner, are going out to try and get that extra tackle, right? Marcus Peters. But sorry, I had to slander my boy Marcus Peters over there. But I think the biggest thing is getting now our outside cornerback number 2. Because Brandon Stevens, it appears, is out of the mix. Again, doesn't mean he won't ever line up on the outside. This is more just the consistent day 1 through day, 250 of the Ravens season. Who's going to be lining up the most at outside cornerback opposite Marlon Humphrey? Obviously, the main candidate is Rock Ya-Sin. But there are other players that are going to be vying for that spot. I think the biggest one is Pepe Williams because he's been in this building. He's played outside. He's played inside, in the nickel spot. But I feel like I do like him better as an outside. But then also Caillou Blue Kelly. Yes, he's a rookie. He's a later drafted rookie. But he is not a developmental player. He's somebody that's ready to go right now. And he could be competing for that slot. Or not slot. I don't know why I keep saying slot. That nickel cornerback spot. I'm just so used to wide receivers. Maybe that's why. Competing Kyle Blue Kelly, if he can get that nickel cornerback spot, which he's lined up at nickel plenty of times at Stanford, that all of a sudden creates more competition. Okay, how do we get Pepe on the field? And Pepe's not a huge cornerback, but he's got the size that he can play outside. Because when he was in college, Marcus Jones was almost said it again, was the nickel cornerback. I feel as if this will help the Ravens have more players ready to play right now when they go against these teams with 4 wide receivers that are very good. Because that's what's killed the Ravens. Number 1 wide receivers have not been the problem for Baltimore when Marlon Humphrey is healthy. When he's not healthy, it's been ugh. But when Marlon is healthy, almost every time the Ravens have been beaten, it's been the number 2, whether it's T. Higgins. It's been the number 3. We've seen guys like Hunter Renfrow play very well against the Ravens. Again, these are good players. I'm not trying to say they're not, good players in the NFL, but it's not been the main guy, right? It's been the other players. So if we all of a sudden now have 3 players vying for one spot that are all competent and do very good things, they're going to be able to shift them in and out. Hey, Caillou Blue Kelly, you're struggling against this slower, quicker wide receiver too. Maybe we throw Pepe Williams in there. For example, let's say it's Devontae Smith. Maybe the Ravens are playing the Eagles. Obviously, Marlon's on A.J. Brown. Let's say Devontae Smith is playing very well against Rock Ya-Sin, who is the starting outside cornerback. Oh, man, Rock Ya-Sin's just not quick enough to keep up. Okay, let's put in a quicker cornerback that can play outside corner in Pepe Williams. And all of a sudden, it gives you better matchups. The Ravens, I feel like this season aren't going to be locked in to playing 2 starting quarterbacks on the outside. And obviously, it's a good thing to have 2 players to rely on consistently because they are very good. But sometimes that creates matchup problems. You see it in the NBA. You see it in the MLB. You see it in the NBA, right? Sometimes you don't want Steven Adams starting at center because the team you're going against can play very well against Steven Adams. Sometimes you don't want Marcus Peters as your starting cornerback too. You may be like, why? Marcus Peters is pretty good. Sometimes players are able to abuse that aggressiveness, that knack for going for the ball and take advantage of it and get bigger plays out of it. And people have done that. So you're able to play the matchup rather than playing your player. Again, I would rather have someone to throw out there every play. But in a lot of situations, if you're playing this defense that I feel like the Ravens are going to try and play, which is this 2 safeties over the top, make them beat you slowly, playing the matchup is going to be fine. Now, if you wanted to go one-on-one every play, right, the Wink Martindale defense almost, cover 0, heavy blitz, one-on-one, no help. That's when you want 2 really good cornerbacks that you can put out there every play and be fine with in man coverage. The Ravens don't have that currently. And I feel like that's by design because they don't want to spend all that money on defense. They're trying to work on the offense and instead create a defense that is going to limit the big play and make teams beat them slowly and limit possessions on both offense and defense. But I think this is really good for Brandon Stevens. I think this is really good for the Ravens defense. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts. on this, I don't know, I'll call it a transition. Don't think it's much of a transition. It's more of a retransition or an untransition. He's going back to what he used to do. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for Daily Ravens content, and I will see all of you again tomorrow.